This is a quick tutorial on how to set up a template spreadsheet for parameter fitting. So I have a completed template here already. The basic setup is that I have put this free space here for any sort of analysis that I need to do, whether it's to take a logarithm, do some averaging, or set up the uncertainty propagations. You can also use the space at the bottom here. It's really easy to add extra columns if you need them. Let's say I need 3, so I'll just select these, right-click and insert more, and it'll insert 3 more columns. Then I have this part here, which will have the independent and dependent variables that you will be graphing with the uncertainty of the y variable. I have a legend up here, which is to show what x and y and their uncertainties are. So let's say we're graphing voltage versus current. My x would be current in amps, and my y would be voltage in volts. And now you'll know what these x and y's and the rest of the spreadsheet and the graphs are referring to. Then I have this section with all the pieces that I need for the 1 and 2 parameter fitting, which I got from this PDF on slope uncertainty. For this column, for example, it's 1 over dy squared, so I've just referred to the dy cell, and then I've just dragged this whole thing down. And at the bottom of it, I have a sum of that column. Same thing for all these other ones. It's much better if you add more rows than you need and then delete the extra ones, because when you add extra rows, you'd have to manually change these sums and the graph setup, but when you delete it, it will automatically change. So I've added about 20 rows here. You probably won't need that many. Then I have these two sections for 1 and 2 parameter fitting. So the formulas for delta, m, b, and the uncertainty in m and b are here. I just select the cells to write these down and do it for all of those. I also have this chi-squared part. So for that, I need this weighted residuals column, and also I have this residuals column for the residuals graph and the model. Now to set up the graphs, you can just do that even without any data. But I'm just going to put some values here just so I can see that I'm not making any mistakes. So now you can see that the graphs are showing up, and the residuals, of course, are 0 because it's a perfect x equals y model. Now I'm just going to show you how I set up one of these graphs. So you just select your original data. Then you can just add the model. So the x values would just be the ones before, and the y would be the model. So you can't really see that because they're exactly the same, so they're overlapping. I'm just going to change one of these so that you can see those. And you can see the orange ones as well. And you can change that to be a line and do anything else that you want. You can also add the error bars like I have done here, but I don't really recommend doing that because I noticed that when you delete Some of the rows, the error bars don't get updated like the other values do, so just don't bother with the error bars. Just do that later during the lab. So now I'm just going to use some actual data from, I think, lab 10, just to show you how this looks like. So in this case, we just want to graph mass versus change in stretch. So my x would be mass in kilograms, and my y would be stretch in meters. And you can see that the points do show up, but the model doesn't, and that's because of these division by zero cells that you have to change, which you can do by deleting these rows. But before you do that, I recommend that you make a copy of this, because you don't want to add more rows if you need, because that's just going to be more work. So I'm just going to make a copy, call it improvements. And so I'll keep this intact. I'll go back to my initial measurements and delete these. So now you can see that everything is showing up. My model's showing up, my residuals are showing up. And let's say that I think that I need more data. I'll just go back to the improvement tab and add more data. And if I need to graph it again, make another copy. And yeah, just don't delete all the extra rows until you know you don't want to add any extra data. So that's pretty much it for this video. Just check the template with some old data from the previous labs just to make sure everything is set up correctly.